Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching this EETA session this evening. So blessed to have Ms. Cummings, Assistant Director of Compliance for the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. As we all know, this is a Power 5 ACC program. We were able to hear previously from Morehouse College from a Division II level, North Carolina A&T University from a FCS level, and now we are able to hear from Ms. Cummings from an ACC Power 5 level. So we truly appreciate her taking the time out to educate and inform the student athletes and parents from the CSRA on compliance and eligibility process. So without further ado, Ms. Cummings, you had the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So I will get started with initial eligibility review. And I basically wanted to touch on areas where I feel like most prospects and parents are not really informed. So I definitely just wanted to touch on those areas. So I will begin with the registration process. So I suggest that prospect registers for the Eligibility Center around the 10th grade. It's just a good time to set yourself up to send your transcripts so the Eligibility Center can start reviewing your academic progress to see where you are to meet qualifier status. So the eligibilitycenter.org is where you need to register, and you need to create a certification account. Domestic, and that's anyone in the US, is $90, and then anyone who is international is $150. If you're unable to pay that fee, there is a fee waiver that can be applied to your account. You would just definitely need to get with your high school counselor to ensure that you qualify. So if you get like a reduced lunch, that definitely qualifies you for a fee waiver. If you are provided a fee waiver for the ACT or the SAT, that also would entitle you to a fee waiver for the Eligibility Center. So don't allow the price to prevent you from registering in the 10th grade, because like I said, if you qualify for a fee waiver, then that fee is waived. So, and you can definitely just go to like Yahoo or Google and search Eligibility Center fee waiver, and it'll send up a whole lot of information, or you can just go see your counselor at the high school and they should be able to assist. So once you get your account set up, your account definitely won't be reviewed until a Division I or a Division II institution places you on their IRL, and it's considered an institutional request list, but it's basically a list of prospects that institution is currently recruiting. And so, like I said, the Eligibility Center is not going to review your account until you're active on an IRL. So definitely wanted to point that out. So you definitely won't have like an academic review if a college doesn't have you on their IRL. So another point that I wanted to point out, and it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens sometimes. There's a domestic and an international price. So an example, if perhaps you attended school in the US for maybe 9th grade, 10th grade, then you were able to move outside the country and go to Italy for 2 years and go to high school, you would not be considered domestic or international. You would be considered a split file. And that is when you are in high school in domestic side and international side. So just note, if you do attend high school internationally and domestic, you'll be a split file and you will actually register underneath an international prospect. So I definitely wanted to point that out there. It doesn't happen as often, but it does happen. So I definitely wanted to provide that guidance. So some additional information, like I just mentioned, as far as domestic and international prospects. Domestic prospects will meet one requirement, and then international prospects will meet another standard. And I'll definitely review that when we go further into the presentation. So basically with the Eligibility Center, once you register, you can start submitting all high school transcripts to the Eligibility Center. It can come from the prospect as long as it comes from the email address associated with your account. So the email address you use when you sign up, as of right now in this COVID world, the Eligibility Center is allowing prospects to send in their high school transcripts directly from their email address. It doesn't have to come from your high school. But if the high school does mind sending, they can definitely upload it to your account, or they can mail it in. I don't know many people that are mailing in documents as of right now because of COVID, because the internet is our friend. So definitely I would just have your high school counselor upload them, or like I said, you can upload them yourself as of right now. On the flip side, test scores must be submitted directly from the testing agency. So it must come directly from College Board, or it must come directly from ACT.org. The code for the Eligibility Center is pretty simple. It's 4 9s, and that will send your scores directly to the testing center. Excuse me, it will send your scores directly to the Eligibility Center from the testing center. The Eligibility Center does not accept test scores that are on your high school transcripts. So if they are on your high school transcripts, that's great, but the Eligibility Center wants them directly from the testing agency. I definitely wanted to touch on homeschool because I'm seeing a lot more homeschool prospects. Homeschool is, it can be very, I'm not gonna say intense, but it can be very lengthy because basically you don't attend an actual traditional high school. You're either homeschooled through a homeschool umbrella program, or you homeschooled by your parents. But either way, homeschool transcripts are evaluated by staff on a case-by-case basis. They're gonna look at core course worksheets, they're gonna look at your high school transcript, they're gonna look at basically how the course was taught, what books were used. So if you are in homeschool, you definitely need to start that process as soon as possible, because it's just, like I said, it can be very lengthy, and the Eligibility Center, they require an abundance of documentations to prove that basically you were taking college level courses while you were in high school as a part of homeschool. So I definitely wanted to mention that. Something else that's pretty important, like I said, the Eligibility Center wants test scores directly from the testing agency. Something else they want directly from high schools. If you attended multiple schools, the Eligibility Center wants high school transcripts from each school attended, unless those schools are in the same district. If they're not in the same district, they will not take your courses earned from a previous institution on your new transcript. Like, they need to come from the high school you attended. So if you've attended 2 schools and they're not in the same district, make sure both schools are sending your high school transcripts to the Eligibility Center. The Eligibility Center will not review courses that are on your transcript from a different high school unless they have that transcript that from the high school you attended previously. But like I said, if the schools are in the same district, then one transcript is needed. Different districts, multiple transcripts are needed. So just definitely wanted to point that out there. Basically, all high school courses that you take must be approved. It's called the 48H, or we can now consider it the high school approved core course list. But all the courses that you take must be on that list in order for you to receive credit to go towards your 16 course requirement. If the courses are not on the approved list, the Eligibility Center will not approve it and you won't get credit for it. So make sure you work closely with your high school counselor to make sure whatever courses you're taking matches whatever courses are on that list. It's very, 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 very important. And definitely make sure you look at that list yourself. If you notice that you're taking a class that's not on that list, immediately ask the counselor, hey, I'm trying to go be a Division I student athlete and this course is not on the list. I need to make sure whatever courses I'm taking is from this list. So definitely keep track of it yourself, and just be mindful of the courses you're taking, because it becomes a lot harder once you've already graduated to try to get credit for courses that you took in high school. And so I always just try to stress to make sure whatever courses you're taking, make sure it's on the approved core list. So now we're going to get into initial eligibility, since I've gone over basically all the basics in regards to the Eligibility Center and everything they're looking for. So right now for the classes, not class, but right now for those who enroll 2021, 2022, and 2022, 2023, these are the requirements that must be met in order for you to qualify to be a Division I student athlete. So the first one is full qualifier status. So that allows you to receive.
Excuse me, Ms. Cummings.
Yes.
I know that the PowerPoint isn't following you. It's still on the first PowerPoint, NCAA initial eligibility.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that.
That's all right.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll just do it from here then.
No problem.
Okay, awesome. Sorry about that. So qualifier status. So basically, in order to be a full qualifier and that's receive athletics aid, practice, and compete, a prospect must complete 16 core courses. 10 of those 16 must be completed before entering your 7th semester, essentially entering senior year. Out of those 10, 7 need to be English, math, and science. And so that's something essentially you can't make up. So if you don't get the 10 before your senior year, pretty much unless you ask the institution to file an initial eligibility waiver, the best thing you can probably be is an academic redshirt, and I'll get to that later. So as I mentioned before, you need 16 core courses. So that's your English, your math, your science, social science. And then you need to hit the 10-7, and then you must graduate from high school, and then you must meet a minimum of a 2.3 GPA. So there's no test score required right now for those enrolling for the 22-23 academic year, which is awesome. So another way you can qualify is being an early academic qualifier. And this is someone who is just, I always call them rock stars. You need to complete 14 core course units in the subject areas of English, math, science, social science, additional core. You must have at least a 3.0 GPA or higher. And this is prior, and this is basically you entering your senior year, you have 14 units completed. And that allows you to get athletic aid, practice, and competition. And what I mentioned before, as far as an academic red shirt, you're meeting everything, all requirements, but you're not meeting the 10-7. So if you're unable to meet the 10-7, like I said, the best you can get is an academic red shirt, and that allows you to receive athletics aid for the year and then practice your first semester. In order to practice the second semester, I believe you need to pass at least 9 hours in your first semester. So, but I always stress definitely you want to be a qualifier because basically all institutions, that's what they look for. I know at the ACC level here at Georgia Tech, we do not take non-qualifiers. I didn't even put it on the presentation because it's not something that you want to be. You definitely want to be in the qualifier, early academic qualifier status. And so the next information I wanted to talk about was amateurism. It's a pretty big deal, but basically it's when you register for the eligibility center, you're going to register your academic portion, then you're also going to register your amateurism portion. And so that's where you fill out your sport participation. So if you were a part of like an AAU team or a club team like volleyball, that's where you just enter the information saying, hey, I played for this club, I paid these fees, and the fees, they allow me to travel to play. And they just paid for whatever you needed in order to play that sport. So basically, I also encourage that you enter all the sports you intend to play when you enter college. So if you are a dual sport and you play baseball and you play football, definitely add both sports to your account. So when you go to request final amateurism, you don't have to add the sport. All the sports will already be there. A common sport that has multiple sports, of course, is your track and field and cross country. You'll see a lot of those prospects register for both sports because they intend to play both sports. And I know I mentioned baseball and football, but you also see that where you have baseball baseball and football prospects, that'll add both of those sports to their accounts. So once all that information is submitted, the NCAA will review it, and then you will also review it. And if you intend to enroll winter, spring, so that's basically spring of 2022, that's an example, you will request your final amateurism on October 1st. And if you plan to enroll in the fall, you will request your final amateurism April 1st. So fall enrollees will request their amateurism April 1st, 2022. So basically, you are just basically confirming all the information you've entered is accurate, is up to date, and that you are an amateur in the sports that you intend to play once you become a Division I student athlete. Once you request your final amateurism, if everything looks good, the Eligibility Center will deem you a final certified in your amateurism. So basically, you want to see final qualifier, final certified, and that means you're good to go and you can play, you can compete, you can receive your athletics aid and be a Division I student athlete. And then my last slide, I just basically wanted to highlight the NLI sign-in periods. We just recently had one, an early sign-in period for the sport of basketball. It ended yesterday. So if you know of anyone that signed an NLI, and the NLI stands for National Letter of Intent, basically that's stating that that prospect is going to go to a school, receive aid, and play their sport. And right now we're currently in our sign-in period for other sports until August 1st of 2022. But our next period that's coming up is football, and that's the early sign-in period. We recently got, I think that was added maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I believe most football programs love the early sign-in period so they can get their sign their prospects, get it, not saying get it over with, but it's just allowing them to sign early is just a good thing. I believe majority of the time we sign, I believe a lot of, like I said, football programs sign majority of their prospects during that period. That is coming up December 15th, and they basically have 48 hours to make the decision on where they want to attend school. And then the list of all the other signing periods are there as well. So I believe that's all I have for you guys, but I think I provided you guys with a lot of great information, and I hope it was helpful and useful. And yeah, thank you.
Ms. Cummings, we truly appreciate you taking the time and giving us this priceless information. I know that on behalf of EETA, I truly appreciate you, and I know the parents as well as the student athletes of the Central Savannah River area appreciate you as well. So we truly appreciate it, and thank you so much.
No problem. I'm sorry about the slides not aligning with what
It's all right. It's all right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.